You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Today's podcast is brought to you by OSV Kids, a magazine designed to help children grow in their faith throughout the liturgical year. To find out more, head to osvkids.com. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Monday, November 8th, 2021. Today also marks a very big day for us here at Catholic Sprouts. We are sharing with the world a book we've been working on for 2 years. It's called The Saints and the Call to Friendship with Jesus Christ. To celebrate all week long, we will be sharing stories from this book, which we share exclusively inside of our app. Each of these stories take an emotion or an experience that these saints felt, something you probably feel too, and we show how that thing, even though it was hard or painful, was Christ calling them to friendship. Today we are starting things off with the story of St. Peter Claver. St. Peter Claver experienced something that many of us feel, which is powerlessness. When we see the evil in the world, when it's so big and we feel so small, it's easy to feel powerless. And yet Christ used what St. Peter Claver felt and transformed him not only into a great help to the people around him, but into a saint. St. Peter Claver has a remarkable story, and I hope you enjoy it. Squinting into the sun, Father Peter could just make out a ship bobbing on the horizon. Steadily, it crept closer. He knelt to gather together all that he had begged for: bread, medicine, fresh water, and blankets. His heart grew heavy when he pictured the suffering souls on board that ship. Africans captured and chained to the ship for 2 months while it crossed the sea, only to face a lifetime of slavery when it reached the New World. Overcome with sorrow, he knelt down and prayed, "Oh Jesus, what can I do in the face of such evil?" Compared to the needs of those on board, his pile of supplies seemed pathetic. And after he helped the slaves on this ship, there would be another and another. Looking out to sea, the ship was now close enough to make out the individual sails. It would be docking soon. Peter rose to his feet and gathered what he had, determined to be the first person on board that ship. Evil can sometimes seem so big, while in comparison, we are so small. Our friendship with Jesus commands us to never accept or ignore evil. And yet, what can we do? We can't change laws or destroy wicked institutions all on our own. We are powerless. And yet, Jesus reminds us through the life of St. Peter Claver that as his friends, we are called to embrace his powerful love and use his love to transform the world. St. Peter Claver was a Spanish priest who journeyed to the New World after his ordination. He thought that he would spend his life ministering to the natives of South America, but when he arrived, he was confronted with a great evil that required all of his attention. That evil was slavery. At the time, the slave trade was booming. Slave traders kidnapped Africans and loaded them onto ships. Those captured were chained to the floor of the ship for the 2-month journey across the sea. During that voyage, they were given very little food or water, and those that died from illness were simply thrown into the sea. 1/3 of those captured died on the journey. When they arrived in South America, the Africans were starving and weak. In the face of such cruelty, Father Peter Claver offered the love of Christ. When the ship docked, he raced on board with food, medicine, and love. He refused to leave the boat until he had ministered to every person on board. Since the Africans spoke different languages, he brought the good news of Jesus Christ to them with pictures and plays. He baptized them, gave them the Eucharist, and heard their confessions. He begged for food for the Africans and did what he could to ensure that families were not separated. Later, after the slaves had been sold and brought to work on plantations or in mines, he went to visit them. Often the rich landowners asked Father Peter Claver to stay in their mansions, but he refused. Instead, he stayed with the slaves in their quarters. Through it all, Father Peter Claver wore the same tattered cloak. He used his cloak to cover lepers. He offered it to the exhausted as a pillow, and he even used it to carry the dead. St. Peter Claver worked hard to bring love to those sold into slavery. But did he end slavery? No, he didn't. Did he transform the hearts of those who were involved in the slave trade? Well, not really. And yet, the work he did brought the love of Jesus Christ to the lives of the weakest and the poorest. It may not be possible to eliminate the evils of this world, but St. Peter Claver reminds you to love anyway. Very likely your work of love will mean that you will work to relieve the suffering of others and bring them to Jesus so that they too might enjoy his friendship. Embrace the power of love and never let your powerlessness stop you from loving those who are suffering. In the face of modern evils like abortion, racism, and immorality, love boldly, just like St. Peter Claver. Find the individuals most in need of Jesus' love and bring that love to them.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
You have just heard a story from our new book, The Saints and the Call to Friendship with Jesus Christ. This book has been a labor of love for our whole team for the past year and a half, and we are thrilled that it is finally coming out into the world. This book is jam-packed with incredible saint stories told in a way that is vivid, that will capture your imagination and will help you realize that what you feel and experience is really Christ prompting you to be his friend, to be a saint. The book is on sale for this week only. It is for a special price. So if you want to get in on the early bird pricing and see for yourself not only the great stories, but the incredible art, the portraits of these saints included in this book, then please grab your copy this week. You can find a direct link to get your copy in the notes for this podcast episode.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.